So I kind of have a two-part question. As a candidate, can you say that you have a preference for either Weiser or Bennett? I don't know if, of course, that's because you have, either way, you're going to have to work with one of them. Let's be honest, I don't think that what's-her-face, Kirkmeyer. Anyway, we're in Congressional District 7, which is mine. We're represented by Brittany Pedersen, and we're not big fans. Used to be, but the wool has been pulled from our eyes about that one. So she was a yes vote on House Bill 894, which equates anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. And how would you equate the two, or do you feel differently about that?
Yeah. So to answer your first question first, I'm not supporting Barbara Kirkmeyer in her race for governor. I am officially and will remain neutral in the governor's race. As I assume that the gubernatorial candidates will remain neutral in my race. Look on, and I don't recall that vote in particular, and but I'd love to tell you a story that I think sort of personal to me, and I think it helps to reflect sort of where sort of my feelings on some of these things. I should be very clear that I don't think that anti-Zionism is the same as anti-Semitism. My Jewish values and tradition was one of the most important things in my life. My youngest daughter, all of my daughters are named after strong women in the Jewish Bible. My youngest daughter, her middle name is Esther. And Esther, for those who don't know, Esther played a really important role in the Jewish Bible in the story of Purim. Esther is also the name that some of the radical extremist right and those involved in Project 2025 has assigned to something called Project Esther. Does anyone know what Project Esther is?
No.
Do you have Project Esther? Oh yeah. Sorry, I mean, yeah.
It's the program where they are trying to find all of these activists that are fighting against anti-Semitism, or fighting against anti-Zionism, and equating them to anti-Semites.
Yeah, I mean, it's a part of a project pushed by the extreme right.
Beitar, I believe.
To pushed by the extremist right to really tear at some of the core fabric of civil society, to trample people's rights, to strip people of their visas, to crack down on speech, including on college campuses, all in service of a radical right-wing agenda, to crack down on those who have exercised their, many of those across this country, who have exercised their right to speak out freely about oppression and atrocities here in the United States and across the world, including in Gaza and in the West Bank. That project is really deeply disturbing to me, and should be deeply disturbing to all of us, right? It is part of a broader project of some of the extreme forces in this country that are doing everything they can to pit us against each other, right? To divide us in service of their agenda. So my daughter, a few months ago, I think at this point, was talking to a friend about her name, about how proud she was of her name. And she said that her middle name was Esther, and her friend said, and she's 7 years old, and her friend said, why Esther? And she said, Esther is really important because Esther saved the Jewish people. That's why we gave her the name, And when I left, it occurred to me, and I talked to my wife, that maybe she can't say that anymore, right? Maybe we have to tell her not to say that, right? Because of now the associations with the name Esther, because this might mean something different to a listener, right? Because she might need to provide that additional context. That was really heartbreaking for me, right? I felt like something had been stripped of me, right? Something had been stripped from my family, right? Something had been stripped from my daughter. It was really sad. I think that like, I want to make sure that we get to a place where we can all see basic things, the humanity in one another, right? Without succumbing to these kinds of absurd and cruel forces. So that's a very long way of answering your question. Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism, and we can't get sucked up in sort of that kind of trap. We certainly cannot allow this agenda to tear apart the fabric of our civil society and trample people's rights to speak out about very basic things. I wanted to share that story because I think all of this is really personal to me.